This is an interesting. I like it because it feels like it's a comedy, but there's a lot of pain and angst and everything else
Yeah.
in it, and it really I think works nicely because of that. So what I want to start out is I want to ask you guys sort of in character what each of you see in each other because it's about an interesting and unusual relationship. We're not a typical romantic comedy kind of relationship.
Right.
So let's start with you.
Yeah.
What does your character Jeremy see in Melanie's character Amy?
Well, I mean, I think they're both the characters are kind of at similar points in their lives, and they kind of relate to that, and especially how they're each dealing with, kind of with their parents at this time, and where they are, and these people that are close to them, like their parents, who they feel like they don't really know them, and then they get to meet, and they feel like, well, they're these two people that really can kind of connect on that level, like, oh, you it's like when you meet anyone in life, and you see like, oh, you can kind of see me, right? You kind of see who I am, and I think that's kind of the energy that we go for with it, or that the movie kind of touches on.
So what you see in Melanie's character, in Amy, I'll try to keep the character straight, in Amy is a reflection of your own situation or a dilemma.
Yeah, or just a realization that, I think it's more about a realization that somebody sees you for who you are. And when you don't, and when you haven't been receiving that, like I think both the characters have in this movie for some time, and then you finally meet someone and you kind of you're refreshed by that feeling.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of open just to kind of be yourself and to and how relieving that feeling is.
Yeah.
I think that's something that it touches on.
Okay, and Melanie, I want you to play the same role. What does Amy see in Jeremy?
I feel like I can't really say it better. It's that exact thing. It's the connection that they feel. I mean, there's obviously like a physical attraction that happens on some level, but then there's just sometimes you come across someone at a point in your life and they're at a similar point, and you can just connect in so many ways, and you just feel like, you get what I'm going through, you get who I am, and they just love being around each other.
Yeah.
And even if it's temporary, and even if in somewhere in the back of your mind, you know it's temporary, you know that it's still important that you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then that's the question. So, if you guys are so perfectly matched spirits, at least at the moment in this movie, why doesn't it work out, ultimately?
I think that happens, like kind of what you were just saying, I think that happens in life, like I don't know, I'm not a believer that you need to be with only one person for your entire life. I just think, different people come into your life at different times, and that's how it happens, and sometimes two people find each other at the right moment and they can help each other move to a different place, and it doesn't necessarily have to be together.
And hence, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but just that, I think, and both the characters are kind of, I think, wise to the fact that they know they have a lot to still do, like with their lives, and a lot to catch up on, and so they in subconsciously maybe they both kind of know, like, well, this would be great, but it's the timing's way off,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like the feeling that you if that happens in real life, you don't realize it till like a year later. You have a relationship with someone, and then and it didn't work out, and for a while you think like, well, why didn't that work out? And then a year later you're like, oh, this is why. So and I think they're both kind of wise to that sense of, they know what's happening, they know what this is. Maybe they don't talk about it, but like, oh, this is for right now.
And that's also why the title seems so perfect for the situation, that you're both arriving and leaving at the same time, but it just, at that moment in time, it sort of works. What role do you think the age difference plays in the fates of your characters? Or is it irrelevant?
I think it's closer to being irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean, for the sake of this situation, I think it's more about just the place they are in their lives, and they happen to be like the ages that they are. I mean, it's not something like when we were filming it. It wasn't something that all right, well, keep this in the back of your head. That remember, you're 19 and you're we didn't play it like, it didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess in the context of the story, people would be a little more disapproving because they don't understand, our individual personalities on the same level. So, but it's not really. It's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah. So, was there any kind of push? Because I would guess, having seen it, I think there might be a push in the audience to want you to make it work, rather than making it transitional. Was there any discussion in the making of this movie? You know, does it have to go where it went, or any kind of movement along those lines?
I mean, no. I mean, well, when I first read the script, it was how it was.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think it.
You weren't thinking, oh, what a shame.
No, I mean, no. But again, it's like I said. It's like, you know, it's that weird understanding. You know, the
Yeah.
weird understanding of, well, you know, this is for right now.
I know. I just had a moment of panic of like, oh my god, we're giving the ending away, but it's such a like not important part of. I mean, the story is the relationship and what happens during the relationship.
Yeah, and when I do a review and stuff, I'll be very careful about how we
Okay.
handle this. It's literally for me who want to seek out and want to get more and get access to this. So I won't be blowing your cover anytime too soon. And the other thing I want to ask you, one of the things that I loved about the movie, and I mean, I love the comic, you know, the way it sort of pulls the comedy out of the real life situations that a lot of us find ourselves in. But your relationship with your mother especially, but your parents in general, but your mother especially, I thought was so rich and a dynamic. And the reason is just because now I have a daughter who's like in her 20s, and I always identify with romantic leads. I don't identify with the parents' generation, but I thought that the way you played off Blythe Danner and you know, vice versa, rang so true, because on the surface, I think if you didn't know the characters and see the characters, you'd say, okay, a woman in her 30s who hasn't gotten out of bed practically for 3 months, of course the mother is right to try to encourage her along. And yet, because the film is centered on your take on the world, you can see how aggressively these parents are trying to be good parents, but really underneath it's you end up siding with somebody that I think on paper you wouldn't. Can you talk about how you understood the dynamic between you and your mother in the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting because Blythe and I are both like very sensitive people, and we don't like to be mean to other people, and we both were apologizing constantly. But in both sides, she was like, "Oh, I understand why you hate me," and I was like, "I understand why you hate me. I'm so annoying. I'm just sitting around in my pajamas." So it is an interesting, it's a very complicated dynamic, and I sort of would think about, you know, what was the first like couple of weeks like when Amy came to stay there, and you know, they probably were very like careful and kind, and at what point does it turn into like, oh my god, you know, like when's this gonna change?
Honey, I'm home. It's noon. Isn't it about time to get up? At the opening of the film, I thought it was very nice. And then how comfortable or how much did you identify with your character? Because what's interesting about it is that there are a lot of ways to play this dynamic. There are a lot of ways to play everything. You could be seen as sort of depressive, that you were, you know, you're down in the dumps, like everything had gone, you know, backwards or bonkers in your life. You don't play it. And that's what I think, you don't play it that way. And that's what I think is so winning. How do you understand the character to be kind of, you have an upbeat approach to your downbeat situation? Or is that how you see it?
I don't know. I mean, I think that Amy is a naturally funny person, so she's sort of like at least finding some humor in it, and the script is very funny, so I think that sort of comes across, but she's definitely in the middle of a very deep depression in a dark place. It's not a lot of fun, but I love that about the movie, that it's not sort of wallowing in that, and it's not, you know, taking it so seriously. I like that take on it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Dramatically, it's more interesting, you know, to see someone try and fight against something than see someone just kind of give in.
Yeah. And now, how did you see your character? Because there's a part of me that thinks that your character is almost too good to be true. How do you understand what your character is going through?
Well, I'm older, you know, so I kind of thought back to, like, you know, when I was 19 also, and the wisdom that I thought I had, you know, and how when you think that you kind of have that wisdom, how you kind of, you know, give it to others. You know, you think you're giving, you think you're
how
giving.
Generous you are.
Oh yeah, take this. You know.
Yeah.
But
you'll thank me later.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think I just thought that was interesting, and you know, and to kind of have a very mature relationship with this other person, but yet, you know, and to be aware that as the actor to be aware that you really don't know what you're doing, but you
Yeah.
need to play it like you know what
Like
you know
you're sure.
like you're just like you're there. I thought I don't know. I thought that was like the
Yeah.
funnest thing
Oh,
to
that's-
kind of do.
yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, no,
but,
no, I get that take because he comes off as, almost preternaturally, mature, and and for a 19-year-old, you go, really? But yeah, the idea is that that's the kind of veneer that 19-year-olds put on themselves in order to get through kind of the rocky patches.
and
of
not
life.
and not to play. And for me also being I'm 20-something, 26 years old, so to not try. I wasn't trying to play like a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that would have been a bit of a trap in the play.
Yeah.
Because it's also you kind of have to think, well, why is she attracted to him? If he was kind of this more naive kid,
Yeah.
then it would be completely confusing. Why,
Yeah.
Mhm.